What's up, guys? This is Ricky here with DraftManager.com. On Skype live call with our NFL expert. He was our college football expert last year, John Downing, and we're going to go through some games. Say what's up, John.
What's going on, Ricky? What's going on, folks? Welcome to our show. This is the first of hopefully a long many.
Yep. All right, we're going to get right into it. The first game we're going to get into is Dallas at Washington, 45.5 over-under, with Washington projected to score 24 and Dallas 21.5. You got any fantasy plays in this game, John?
In this game at quarterback for Dallas, everybody was on Dak Prescott last week, and that burned a lot of people. Some people still managed to cash with him. But based off of last week alone, you have to avoid him in cash games. But we know that fantasy bias is a real thing, and if somebody gets burned just recently, the public's going to stay far away from that quarterback. So I think that Dak Prescott is clearly in play for a GPP quarterback. He did throw the ball 45 times against the Giants. He did have 2 TDs that were dropped, so he would have had a much bigger day. Dak also runs a little bit. Des Bryant only had 1 catch for 8 yards. We did see Dak hook up with Jason Witten for double-digit catches, as well as Cole Beasley, double-digit catches. And Ezekiel Elliott kind of struggled to get the running game going a little bit for Dallas. That offensive line we talked about earlier this year that has the potential to be the best offensive line of all time, not just the best in the NFL this year. So I think it is just a matter of time before Elliott really gets it going. It's just a question of when. So he had 20-something carries for about 50 yards. It's a terrible average. He did salvage his day with a touchdown. So Elliott is in play this week as a cash game option at running back. Probably makes about my top 10 list. He's not someone I'm directly targeting or looking at this week, but he's definitely an option. And like I said, Dak, and I think you could pair. I don't think you want to pair Dez yet because they clearly don't have a rapport. Clearly, Dallas is kind of easing Dak into this offense. I think they're just going to keep it simple and short, and they're going to keep going with Witten and Cole Beasley until they're ready to let Dak kind of let loose. But it's just a matter of time until Dez gets upset and starts demanding the ball. So we'll see when that happens. So you can pair Dak with some of the Beasley or Witten as a GPP, and Elliott's a cash game option. For the Washington side, we saw Washington play Pittsburgh at home on Monday Night Football, and in the first quarter, Washington looked really good. Including they came out passing. Cousins looked to Jordan Reed in the first quarter as his first read. Pretty much every pass play in the first quarter, he was looking right to Jordan Reed, and then I was wondering why it stopped, and then you can't really tell how well Pittsburgh's adjusted their coverage, and I thought maybe they adjusted their coverage to stop Reed from getting the ball, but I found out later that he had an ankle injury that he was playing through, so I think that was a combination of Pittsburgh paying more attention to Reed, and he was dealing with an injury. He was just kind of playing through it, so he probably wasn't getting the separation that he was early in the game. So Cousins started to target other guys like Deshaun Jackson, who's a guy I really like this year, and it's his contract year. Coach Gruden said that this is the fastest he's ever seen Deshaun Jackson since he's been around him. He's 30 years old. Clearly, Deshaun Jackson is one of those me type of players. So he's going to want to go out and have a big year this year, and the best way to capitalize on that is to find good opportunities early in the season while he's low-priced in good matchups. And hopefully he racks up a couple touchdowns, a couple long touchdowns, and big yardage days. He had over 100 yards in week 1. He is an option this week as well. So add him to the cash game list of players. He's about mid-range salary. I think he's $6,600 on Fanduel this week. As far as Cousins goes against Dallas, I wouldn't play Cousins this week. If he doesn't have Jordan Reed, well, he's going to have Jordan Reed throw to. But if Jordan Reed's not getting open, Cousins really struggles. Jordan Reed is Cousins' binky, basically. Like, he's this guy, he's this go-to guy. So Cousins could struggle like he did in the second, third, and fourth quarters against Pittsburgh. So I wouldn't play Cousins in cash. Deshaun Jackson's an option. The Washington running back options are just a total mess right now. Is it Matt Jones? Is it Chris Thompson? We just don't know. Is it that guy Kelly? we've heard a lot about. Just not sure. And then we have secondary Washington receivers like Pierre Garçon, Jamison Crowder, who's coming along, and then we have rookie Josh Doxson, who caught one ball last week, and he's going to get more action in the offenses as time goes on. So from this game, the only play I'd look at from the Redskins side is Deshaun Jackson.
Cool. Yeah, we played a lot of Josh Doxson last year in college, didn't we?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Him and we'll be talking about later, Corey Coleman. They won us a lot of money.
That's it. All right, good. Yeah, I kind of saw the same thing last week. I know I have a hard time thinking that Washington's defensive line is going to do a lot with Dallas's offensive line, and I think they probably control the line of scrimmage a little bit, but we'll see. All right, the second game is Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, 48.5 over/under, with Pittsburgh projected at winning 26 to 22.5 right now. What do you got there?
I got the over, definitely. So when you get these teams that play each other and know each other really well, like then they play each other twice a year, the divisional matchups. Usually the first game is the game, if you're going to get a lot of points in one of the games, the first game is the game you get a lot of points on average. The second game of the year, later in the year, usually the teams know each other really well and they end up scoring way less. So that's something to keep in mind as the year goes on. Once these teams meet again, we're going to probably want to avoid some of these games. But for this game, I see this game as a big-time shootout. I see it going way over 48.5 total. I can see it going over 60 points pretty easily. For Pittsburgh, it's at home for them. This is a revenge game. Last year in the divisional playoffs, Cincinnati knocked Pittsburgh out of the playoffs, and they ended Antonio Brown's. No, they didn't knock him out of the playoffs. Pittsburgh won the game, and they went on to lose to Denver. But they knocked Antonio Brown out of the playoffs at the end of the game on a cheap shot by Vontaze Burfict. And no Antonio Brown going up against Denver. It was a recipe for disaster. They really didn't have a chance without Antonio Brown. They fought hard, but if they had Antonio Brown, they probably would have won that game. So that Pittsburgh's got revenge on their mind because they probably feel that Cincinnati cost them a chance at the Super Bowl last year, especially Antonio Brown. He's got to be wanting to prove something. With that said, though, Vontaze Burfict is out for Cincinnati this week, so he'll be a missing link. As far as the offensive side for Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger's home road splits are pretty insane. Ben is not quite Drew Brees level home road splits, but they are right up there. So when Ben's at home, you can feel free to fire him up in good matchups, and just be wary of Ben on the road. Antonio Brown, we've seen the last 16 games that he has played with Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback. He has over 2,000 yards receiving, which of course has never been done by a receiver in any single season. And he has 18 touchdowns. So hopefully he plays all 16 games this year with Ben, and he can get the 2,000 yards and 18 TDs. There is no better lock for cash games for DFS than Antonio Brown. He's as consistent as they come. He's just the best player on the field. It's really easy to tell, and he gets the targets, the target shares. And same thing can be said on a lesser scale for D'Angelo Williams, who's filling in for Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, of course, is an elite talent. He's suspended for the first 3 games. D'Angelo Williams, I think there's a RotoViz split where they take the games where he gets all the runs, Le'Veon Bell out, and they projected into a 16-game season what his stats would look like. So last year, his stats without Le'Veon Bell would have looked like 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's a really good year for a running back. And we saw last week what D'Angelo Williams and Antonio Brown ended up doing to the Washington Redskins. They each had 2 touchdowns. So they're going to be cash game options, basically almost every time except for a really tough matchup. They're always in play. Now, the guy I really like this week is Jesse James, the tight end. Against Cincinnati last year, Ben targeted the tight end, or Steelers quarterback, because Landry Jones played in the first game. Steelers quarterback targeted tight ends 25 times in 2 games against Cincinnati last year. Heath Miller caught 11 passes in each game. Heath Miller retired. The replacement is 6'7", second-year tight end out of Penn State, Jesse James. He's a big, athletic tight end. He can run block well. He's going to be a big red zone target. He got a red zone target last week. He's a minimum salary on Fanduel, $4,500, and he allows you to get a lot of the players that you want to get this week. And I think he's a really good option. And as far as other receivers for Pittsburgh, we saw Eli Rogers look really good last week without Marcus Wheaton. Marcus Wheaton is questionable. He's practiced a little bit this week, and he could come back. So I would stay away from Eli Rogers this week. On the flip side of the ball, Cincinnati. What we have here is A.J. Green dominates the Steelers, and it's not just a small set of games, it's a massive set of games. We have an 8-game sample where A.J. Green basically averages almost 22 Fanduel points a game, which is ridiculous, against the Steelers, and it's pretty consistent every game. So he averages 8.5 receptions a game, 125 yards a game, 0.8 touchdowns a game against the Steelers over the last 8. So they have a really tough time stopping him. They've always had a tough time stopping him. So look for A.J. Green, one of my favorite plays of the week, to have a big game. Another factor for A.J. Green is his home road splits. A.J. Green on the road produces 16 Fanduel points a game on average over his career. At home, A.J. Green produces 11 Fanduel points a game on average over his career. So lock in A.J. Green as an option. You could use Andy Dalton at quarterback as a GPP if you wanted to. Jeremy Hill is really cheap on sites, on Draftkings and Fanduel. He could snag a couple TDs, but I wouldn't use him as a cash game running back this week. Gio Bernard just doesn't get enough run. He's too inconsistent to consider as an option. And then we have the other dark horse, minimum salary tight end of the week, C.J. Uzomah. Tyler Eichert's going to be out for a few weeks, and so C.J. Uzomah has stepped into that role. C.J. Uzomah played over 90% of the snaps last week. He had 5 catches for roughly 80 yards. They really like what he's doing, and it looks like they're going to continue to get him the ball. So, if you wanted to pivot off of James in a GPP, you could use C.J. Uzomah at 4,500 on FanDuel, minimum salary. You can pair him with Andy Dalton if you want to pivot off A.J. Green, who will be owned in cash games, but not too highly, because a lot of people don't know about the A.J. Green stats. So I think the A.J. Green will probably be 7 to 10% owned in cash games. That's about it for this game.
All right, good. Yeah, I like A.J. Green a lot this week. We talked about that earlier. All right, we're going to get to the highest over-under of the week. This next game, the over-under is 53.5. It's New Orleans at the Giants, 24.25 for New Orleans, 29.25 for the Giants. I believe that's the highest total of the week. Yeah, it is. What do you got here?
Basically, everyone in DFS is saying lock and load this game. So we had this game in New Orleans last year. It's in New York this week, and they combined for a total of 108 points. The last four times that these two teams have played each other, the winner has scored at least 48 points. That's insane. 48 points to the winner the last 4 times they played. So Eli Manning is reasonably priced on FanDuel at 8,100, so he's definitely a top 5 cash game quarterback option this week. Ever since they got their new head coach, the old offensive coordinator from Green Bay, Eli Manning has accounted for over 80% of the Giants' red zone touchdowns via passing. So you can feel pretty comfortable with Eli Manning this week in that game, I think. One of the highest owned plays of the week, in my opinion, is going to be Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham, of course, is from LSU, is where he went to school. He grew up in Louisiana, watching the Saints. So last year, we saw him go for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Saints. And if you watched anything about Odell Beckham, his special last year on ESPN, he really got up for that game. So, of course, it stands to reason he's going to be really up for this game as well. He only had 4 catches for 78 yards last week, kind of a letdown, but I expect him to bounce back in a big way this week, and I think 200 yards and 2 touchdowns is easily attainable. Now, you also have to consider some of the lesser options. This is Victor Cruz's first game back in Giant Stadium in a couple of years. I think he was out of football with the injury for like 715 days. He scored a touchdown last week, so he's getting reacclimated into the offense. And I think Victor Cruz, if he has his way, really wants to score a TD in his first game back at MetLife Stadium this week. So at 5,700 on FanDuel, I think Victor Cruz is a nice GPP option. And the other option is rookie wide receiver from Oklahoma, Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard has immense talent. He's going to be a stud in the league, and their receiving corps is going to be good for a long time. The problem is that Odell Beckham demands targets, and there's only so many targets to go around. So we're going to have to see just how much action Sterling Shepard gets. So for now, I would reserve him for your GPP action. And then you got Rashard Jennings at running back and Shane Vereen. Shane Vereen is a guy I would avoid in this game. The touches in week 1 went about 65 to 35% in favor of Rashard Jennings. He's 6,300 on Fanduel, which is very reasonable. He catches passes out of the backfield, but he's a bit older, and for me, he lacks some of the upside. Like I said earlier, Eli Manning accounts for over 80% of the touchdowns in the red zone. So that means that the Giants are passing the ball in the red zone. They're not running it too much. So, I can easily see, I think that Rashard Jennings' upside is probably capped at around 12, 15 Fanduel points this week. And he could go as low as 4 Fanduel points this week pretty easily. If Shane Vereen gets rolling, they fall behind, they start passing the ball to Vereen to try to catch up. So I don't think that Rashard Jennings is as safe as many people feel this week. Now, coming off last week's game on the Saints, Drew Brees played Oakland at home, and they had a shootout. So a lot of people are going to flock to Drew Brees this week, especially those people who do not know about Drew Brees' home road splits. Drew Brees in a dome has always been tremendous. On the road, not so much, especially outdoors. I don't know, there's just something about it, and the numbers bear it out. But I do think there's going to be some points this week. The Giants have made improvements on defense, and they got Olivier Vernon to help out the run game and the pass rush. Then they've made a lot of changes on defense, and they looked really good against Dallas in week 1. But, Dallas did have Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott playing their first game ever as pros. So how good is the Giants defense? We don't know, but you know what? We're probably going to find out this week just how much better they got this year against the Saints. So Drew Brees, you could use him in cash games. I would say he's probably in my 5 to 10 range as a cash game QB option this week. For receivers, Brandon Cooks went nuts last week, and he's going to be a stud. But once again, he has much better home road splits. And he also caught a 98-yard touchdown pass last week, which kind of inflated those numbers. The guy I really like from the Saints passing game is Willie Snead. He's a little less expensive than Brandon Cooks at 7,200 on FanDuel. And we saw he got a ton of targets. He's super fast. He got a lot of action last year, and he just finds the open zone and gives Brees a nice open target, and then he makes plays after the catch. So he's become a very reliable guy, and I think he's still under the radar. As far as running backs, Mark Ingram didn't produce the way many thought he was going to in week 1. In fact, Tavares Cadet outcaught him for receptions by a running back, but I think the total was 7-2. So we thought Ingram was going to catch more passes this year. That didn't happen in the first week, so don't count on it happening this week. The volume's always not assured in the Saints offense for Mark Ingram, and for me, he's just not safe enough for a cash game option. Oh, and then tight end. So tight end for the Saints. Last week, who do we have? Kobe Fleener. I saw you send me a tweet when he caught his first pass of the game in the fourth quarter with like 4 minutes to go. And I was like, oh, that's nice of him. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
So, Kobe Fleener, we heard the rumors that he wasn't learning the playbook as fast as Coach Payton wanted him to. But we also saw the splits of how good Kobe Fleener was when Dwayne Allen wasn't playing for the Colts, and vice versa, how good Dwayne Allen was when Fleener wasn't around. So we thought, we've seen what Drew Brees has done for tight ends over his career. Almost 100 of Drew Brees' touchdowns, his 400 and something touchdowns, have gone to tight ends. He even made Ben Watson, 34 years old, look really good last year, and Ben Watson got to sign a nice big contract because he looked really good last year, because Drew Brees likes to pass to tight ends. So nobody's going to be on Fleener this week, but I am seeing a few people start to talk about him because, you know what, in this game, with the shootout potential that everyone's expecting, Fleener's the type of guy that could win you a GPP. Especially, if it's 108 points in this game, and the way Drew Brees is throwing the tight ends on the pass, he can easily get Fleener for 2 or 3 touchdowns. They said the problem with Fleener was learning the playbook, so it's only a matter of time until he learns the plays. He was on the field about 90% of the plays. He just didn't get the ball. So he becomes an option for GPPs, absolutely. Last guy I want to talk about for the Saints is Michael Thomas, the rookie receiver out of Ohio State. In college DFS last year, we didn't use Michael Thomas very often because he didn't get a lot of targets. But when he did get targets, they were like 2 or 3 catches for 100 or 150 yards. He would catch long bombs for touchdowns. He was a big play guy. For the Saints, he was a number 3 receiver week 1, and he got all 6 of his targets. I think it was on 65 or 70 yards, but he looked really, really good, and I think he has a place in this offense. But he is only $5,000 as a receiver on Fanduel this week. So he crossed my mind as a cash option, to be honest with you, as a salary saver. Because, some people are using Jeremy Curley at 4,700. We'll talk about him later. Honestly, I prefer Michael Thomas in this game at 5,000 to Jeremy Curley if you're going to use a low salary number 3 wide receiver to fill out your Fanduel lineup this week. I think that's about it from this game. You don't want to use either defense, obviously.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so last week we had Detroit open their season at Indianapolis, and it was an excellent game. Detroit pulled it out in the end, but there was a ton of fantasy production and goodness to go around.
John, I can say this is Tennessee at Detroit with the 47 over-under 6-point favorites Detroit is right now. So go on.
Yep. And then we saw Tennessee play at home against Minnesota in probably one of the uglier games of the week last week. Mariota fumbled and threw 2 interceptions last week. But that doesn't change my opinion of Mariota this year. I think he's going to break out in a big way. Last year we saw one of the later weeks of the year, he had a 70-point fantasy game, something like that, because he had like a 90-yard rushing touchdown. Like, he just went off. And he's a really accurate quarterback, and he's known for protecting the ball. I think once he gets it going, things are going to be really, really good for Marcus Mariota. Now, Detroit's defense isn't very good. That said, I wouldn't use Mariota as a cash game quarterback on Fanduel this week. However, he is very cheap on Draftkings this week. He is only $6,000, so he's an option this week. It's a higher over-under game. They are going to be most likely trailing, so they're going to need to pass to stay with it. And I like Marcus Mariota as a potential cash game option. Another guy I love from the Titans is DeMarco Murray. We saw him catch 2 touchdown passes in week 1. We never really saw him catch receiving touchdowns before in his old Dallas days. So that's a nice added repertoire to his game. And he did get most of the carries. So I think DeMarco Murray, while his salary is reduced on FanDuel like it is right now, I think it's only going to go up to some of the higher level guys. Right now, DeMarco Murray is 7,400, I believe. Where's the Detroit game? There it is. DeMarco Murray is 7,400. For me, he's a top 10 cash game running back play this week. Just how much he gets the ball, knowing that Detroit's defense is porous. They're going to be in the dome. DeMarco Murray had his best years playing in Dallas, in their Jerry World dome. DeMarco Murray's come back this year with a lot to prove. He had a horrible year last year, and you know that he's got a chip on his shoulder. And then one more thing is running quarterbacks like Mariota have always inflated the value of their running back partner. They've always boosted the stats. So don't forget about that as the year goes on. So DeMarco Murray, not my top 5 for cash game running backs, but he is a top 10 option for me as far as cash game running backs. As far as receivers for Tennessee, popular under-the-radar guy last week was rookie from UMass wide receiver Tajay Sharp, 5th-round rookie, who ended up being their number 1 receiver to start the year, and he lived up to expectations in week 1. He caught 7 passes for 70-something yards. This week his matchup is a little bit tougher going against Slay. Mariota loves this guy, though. He's raved about him over and over and over and over again this year, just saying how smart he is, how he's always where he needs to be, and he's always working hard. He showed up the first day to the Tennessee for camp, and he had a football in his hand, and he was ready to go. So he's one of these guys that while his salary is reduced at the beginning of the year, we're going to want to take advantage. But in this matchup, I'm going to reserve Tajay Sharp for GPP only. While some people might see him as a cash game option, I don't see that this week. And the number two guy, Rashard Matthews, I think he popped up on some of our optimizers last week, and I said avoid him. Mariota is still learning the progressions of an NFL quarterback, so he's got Tajay Sharp, he's got Delaney Walker, and now he's throwing in DeMarco Murray. So unless a play is specifically designed for Rashard Matthews, which it just doesn't seem like there are any right now, it's going to be hard for him to get a lot of action. I wouldn't even use him in GPPs. The other guy I really like this week for Tennessee is Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker was a great tight end last year. He was Mariota's #1 receiving target. Last week we saw the Lions give up 3 touchdowns to the tight end, 2 to Jack Doyle. Sounds like your old high school principal or something. And then Dwayne Allen also caught a touchdown. So Delaney Walker's clearly in play for a cash game option at tight end. He is a little bit more expensive. I think he's the 3rd highest tight end on the slate, 6,600. But I think we're going to see a nice bounce back week from Delaney Walker this week. Everyone's questioning whether he's going to have a down year this year, and I don't believe he is going to have a down year this year. I just think he got off to a slow start. Minnesota's got a really good defense. Okay, moving on to the other side of the ball, Matt Stafford. He was a hot commodity in week 1 for DFSers, and he delivered. I wasn't too sure what he was going to do without Calvin Johnson, but clearly Jim Bob Cooter, once he came over last year, halfway through the season, to run that Detroit offense, has made a nice high-octane passing game. So Stafford is a good play against Tennessee this week. He's just not on my radar. As far as running backs go, one of my favorite running backs, especially for DraftKings, is Theo Riddick. He's one of Detroit's favorites too. They signed him before the Week 1 game to a new 3-year, $30 million contract, and he delivered with 2 touchdowns last week. And the problem with him, though, is he doesn't get all the runs. So he gets about 50% of the snaps. Amir Abdullah's there too, and Amir Abdullah's got a lot of potential as well. So it's all game dependent. Right now, it seems like it's going to be about a 50-50 split. You're reliant on him catching passes and hopefully getting a touchdown. So Theo Riddick's not really a cash game option on Fanduel right now, but he is cheap on DraftKings, where you get the full PPR. You could use Theo on DraftKings as a cash game option. Amir Abdullah is a nice GPP running back this week. Moving on to receivers. A lot of people were on Marvin Jones last week because he was really cheap priced as a #1 receiver for the Detroit offense. And he did see double-digit targets, but he did kind of let people down because he didn't get in the end zone, and I think he only caught 6 passes for 80 yards. People are going to be off him this week. I would urge you to consider him because I think you're going to see a great year out of Marvin Jones. You're going to see #1 receiver numbers at the end of the year. His price is only $6,500 on FanDuel right now. That's only going to go up and up and up. Now, this is a good matchup for him. So he doesn't fit in my top 10 for receivers this week because there's just a lot of guys in that price range that I prefer. But if you wanted, consider Marvin Jones. He's a decent option. I wouldn't consider Golden Tate. Golden Tate is running 1-yard pass routes. I don't understand what they're doing with them. Until they fix that, I would stay away from Golden Tate completely. At tight end, one of my favorite tight ends this week is Eric Ebron, $5,500 on FanDuel. He got over 90% of the snaps last week. He did catch a touchdown. I think we're going to see Eric Ebron have a huge year for the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions went into the season with only 4 wide receivers on their active roster. That's crazy low. Of course, they do have Abdullah and Theo Riddick to fill out the passing game as running backs. But that says to me that they're relying heavily on Eric Ebron this year to be a big part of their passing game. And so while his price is low at $5,500, take advantage of it.
How much is he on DraftKings? 3.6, did you say?
Oh yeah, he's super low on DraftKings this week. I want to say 3.5.
3.5 or
3.5. Yeah, 3,500 for Ebron.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And he's definitely a cash game option on both sides.
All right. We'll move on to the next game. This is going to be Baltimore at Cleveland, 42.5 over/under, with Baltimore being 6-point road favorites, 24.25 to 18.25 for Cleveland.
All right, you said we were going to get to some non-relevant games, but it seems like each game is relevant. Baltimore this week, they lost RG3, so of course that opens up the value QB, Josh McCown. Early in the week, I saw a lot of DFSers say that, Josh McCown was the cash game quarterback of the week, minimum salary, is he minimum salary, is he 5,000 or 6,000?
I'll look it up.
6,000. Josh McCown is 6,000. So, at that price, he doesn't need to do much. And then you go back and you look at McCown's numbers versus Baltimore last year. Over 500 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns in 2 games. The numbers are off the charts. But then I looked a little bit closer at McCown's numbers, and it was early in the year last year at Baltimore where McCown had over 400 yards in an overtime game and threw for 4 touchdowns. Then these two teams played later in the year in Cleveland, and Baltimore held McCown to 212 passing yards and only 1 touchdown. So that only equates to about 12 Fanduel points. This week, if McCown gives me 12 Fanduel points, I don't think it's going to be enough to cash because you got Cam Newton in play, you got Eli, and you got Drew Brees, among many others who are quarterbacks that can put up really, really big numbers this week. And if you only get 12 from McCown, that could put you way behind the 8 ball. So McCown is not on my cash game radar. He's not on my GPP radar either because Baltimore defense really stymied Tyrod Taylor and the Bills last week. They held Tyrod Taylor under 100 yards passing. So I don't see the upside in McCown either, even at the price. Now we know McCown had a binky last year named Gary Barnidge or Barnkowski. So week 1, people drafted in their season-long leagues Gary Barnidge to be one of the top 5 tight ends. Week 1 had 2 targets and no catches. But that, of course, that was with RG3 at quarterback. We know from RG3's days back in Washington that, he didn't look to Jordan Reed as much as he should have. And not until Cousins came to be the starting quarterback did Jordan Reed really start to fully blossom into what he is now. So McCown really makes Gary Barnidge, like the good Gary Barnidge that we saw last year. Gary Barnidge is a tight end option this week, but I thought he was a better option earlier in the week. As I got to know the slate and the game was a little bit better, I just thought that Barnidge is a little too risky at $6,000 for tight end for me to play in my cash games this week. You could do it, and I wouldn't fault you for it. You could easily have a good day. Cleveland beat reporter Mary Kay Cabot, who's dialed into the team more so than anyone, says she fully expects to see Barnkowski back this week. And then I read a couple articles about Cleveland this week as well, and they expect Barnidge to have a big bounce back week as well. But you know what? For me, I want to see it first with the other options at tight end. And then one of the reasons why is because when McCown found out that he was going to be the starting quarterback on Monday night, and the coach called him, or the GM called him at his house, well, guess who McCown was hanging out with? Corey Coleman and Terrell Pryor, 2 new receiving options. So if you got McCown hanging out with Coleman and Pryor, and they say that they hang out all the time, that kind of tells me that, well, hey, maybe he's not going to look to Barnidge as much as he did last year because maybe one of the reasons he looked to Barnidge so much last year is because he had Brian Hartline as one of his receiving options and Andrew Hawkins as another receiving option. Both those guys now with the team, and because they're really, really bad. So they really upgraded the talent of the receiving core this year. So Corey Coleman and Terrell Pryor could take some of that Barnkowski goodness that he got last year away.
You cannot be selling me that Terrell Pryor's a lot better than Brian Hartline. I just will not. I'm not hearing that.
Well, he looks a lot better.
Oh, come on. All right.
6'7", really fast. No,
physically.
Brian Hartline from Ohio State has always been a solid, possession type receiver option. I know he played for your Miami Dolphins a couple years ago, and he had some productive years back then. But I think that as he got older, some of his skills faded, and I think people have always been enamored with Terrell Pryor's talent. He's really tall, he's really fast, so if you can transition him from being a former quarterback to a receiver, you might have something. You put him in to an offense that has Barnkowski at tight end. You got the number 1 pick, Corey Coleman, out of Baylor, who we love because he made us a ton of money last year. And then you throw in Josh Gordon, who comes back from suspension week 5. Terrell Pryor could be a nice GPP option later in the year. We could break off some nice long TDs. We'll see.
All right.
But as far as this week goes, I would avoid the Cleveland passing game for cash games. Some people will be on them. I would avoid them. For me, the one Cleveland guy that I am on this week is Duke Johnson.
Where'd he go to school?
The U.
That's right.
Both Ricky and myself are big fans of the University of Miami. We haven't had much to cheer about in the since 2001-ish. It's been a long, long time. Duke Johnson has been one of the top 3 to 5 things that we've had to cheer about from the University of Miami in the last 15 years. Coming into the league as a rookie last year for Cleveland, it was kind of a letdown. However, there was a bright spot. The bright spot was in the 8 games that McCown was starting quarterback, Duke put up massive receiving numbers. And so full PPR on Draftkings, he became a really good play. I'd like to pull up the numbers. I think I tweeted them out last night on my @GreenMountainGrinder Twitter account. So I think Duke Johnson with McCown at quarterback averaged 3 more catches per game. And so I really wanted to get a pulse of Cleveland and what they're going to be doing this week, because for me, Duke Johnson's so cheap on the sites. He's $5,400 on Fanduel. Then on DraftKings, he's one of the cheaper options as well. He is $4,500 on DraftKings on full PPR. So we see McCown back at quarterback, so I really needed to figure out exactly what to expect from Duke Johnson. And everyone's saying, well, why isn't he getting the ball? This guy's got so much talent. So in half the carries, I was Isaiah Crowell last week, he had twice the yards. Why isn't Duke getting the ball? So the issue is, they don't want to wear him down. They think that he can't handle a full season's workload. They can't, they don't want to lose him. So they're trying to limit him a little bit early in the year. But with that said, they said they took him, they had him on kick return teams in week 1. They took him off this week, and they expect to integrate him more into the offense this week. And the game script is really, really good for Duke this week because they're facing Baltimore at home. Baltimore is, a 6-point favorite? Is that what you said?
They are a 6-point favorite right now, yeah.
6-point favorite. So, pass catching running backs really, really thrive when they need to catch up. They're behind, and they're spending the game, in comeback mode. And the numbers also bared that out last year for Duke Johnson. When Cleveland was behind trying to catch up is when most of his production came. So Duke Johnson, being only $5,400, which is super low on FanDuel, for me, became a cash game option. And you had to think about him really, 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 really hard. And, I didn't use him. Did we use him in any of my cash game labs this week?
I don't
we
think
might have him one.
We
do have him in one. So we do have Duke in one lineup. I squeezed him in. Because I think that he's going to at least 2x value, which is what you want in our cash games. So I think he's going to get at least 11 FanDuel points this week. So for me, that's an option. Crowell, I don't think it's an option. On the flip side of this game, we got Joe Flacco, Mike Wallace. Ricky, you should take credit for this one. This is the first call we had after months off. You said to me that Mike Wallace is going to have a big year. And I laughed. And you explained to me why. And it all made sense. So when Wallace was in Miami, he had Tannehill. Tannehill doesn't throw the ball deep very well, or really at all. So Mike Wallace wasn't able to thrive the way he was used to in Pittsburgh. Go flash forward to Minnesota last year with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, not a fully developed quarterback, doesn't throw a great deep ball. So Mike Wallace also became irrelevant in Minnesota. Now he comes to Baltimore. What does Joe Flacco do well? Throw the deep ball really, really, really well. He made Torrey Smith look great for years in the Baltimore system. So it all adds up. So in week 1, I looked at Mike Wallace and Flacco as potential plays. Of course, the matchup wasn't good for Wallace against Buffalo. So I steered away. And of course, in the first half, Mike Wallace has a 50-something yard bomb. He has another long catch. He has almost 100 yards at halftime with a touchdown. So should have stuck with what you said earlier in the year, Ricky. Flacco, Mike Wallace is going to be thinking all year long. It's going to happen. What did Cleveland do week 1? They gave a long touchdown to Jordan Matthews in Carson Wentz's first NFL start. They made him look like a Pro Bowl quarterback, and they got blown out. Flacco is a Super Bowl quarterback. So Flacco to Wallace is definitely an option this week. I prefer them in GPPs, to be honest with you, because I think the upside is really, really big. And now, who else do we have from this Baltimore game? We are looking at the running back situation for Baltimore is poor. We saw Justin Forsett get limited carries. One guy I do like from the Baltimore side as a GPP option is Terrence West. It's a revenge game for Terrence West, who spent years buried in Cleveland in a mix between Crowell and Duke and himself, and he got out and he went to Baltimore this year. In the fourth quarter of last week's game for Baltimore, he got most of the closeout action. He got 7 of the last 9 carries, so clearly they thought that they could rely on Terrence West to go and protect the ball and win them the game. He's going to be more involved this week. He's got a lot to play for. He's only 5,400. That said, he's not a cash game option. He's a GPP only option for me. Wide receiver, you got Steve Smith. Don't play him. He got 9 catches, but very minimal yards. He had the ruptured Achilles last year, and kudos to him for coming back. He's tough as nails, but ruptured Achilles takes away his quickness, and that was always Steve Smith's biggest strength. So if he doesn't have his quickness, it's going to be hard for him to give you the upside that you need to win your games. At tight end, one more play. Dennis Pitta. Flacco has always loved his tight ends, and he always really loved Dennis Pitta. Unfortunately, Pitta's had injuries over the last few years. He came back in week 1, and he looked pretty good, and he got over 90% of the plays on the field. He had 4 targets, 3 catches for 39 yards. I expect that only to be more productive as the season goes on. I don't think Pitt is a cash game option at tight end this week, but I do think he's clearly in play if you want to stack up Flacco, Wallace, Pitta, or just Flacco and Pitta this week. That's it for this game.
Okay, excellent. All right, the next one's kind of a lower over-under as well. It's 43. It's Kansas City at Houston. Kansas City projected at 20.25, Houston 22.75. You got anyone in this game?
Yeah, this was a tough game for me to analyze since I read the schedule for week 2. So I looked back and saw they played each other twice last year in the playoffs. Kansas City won 30-0 against Houston. They really hammered them. The one thing that did stand out to me in about this game is Travis Kelce. In 2 games against Kansas City last year, he had over 100 yards receiving in both games, over 8 catches. He had a TD in each game. Travis Kelce is definitely a cash game option for tight end this week. He's a little more expensive, but he has a very high floor. People usually say his upside is capped, and it usually is, because Andy Reid just doesn't get him the ball enough. However, in this matchup, he's averaged 22 points in the last 2 games against Kansas City. Clearly, they like the matchup that Kelce has against Houston's defense. So I do think that Kelce has nice upside in this game. He's a cash game option, and he is a GPP option. As far as anybody else in this game, Jamal Charles looks like he's still going to be out. Spencer Ware was a beast last week. Some people may want to carry that over to this week. That I could see that, but I'm not going there this week. His price rose to 6,800. We saw Houston's D hold Langford to like 2.5 yards a carry on 20-something carries last week. Spencer Ware didn't get a lot of his points until late in the fourth quarter, and he had 9 catches last week because they were playing catch-up from being down 21-3 to the Chargers. And then he scored a touchdown late, so then they went to overtime. So a lot of Ware's big numbers last week were padded with what was necessary game flow. This week, I'm not sure you're going to see the same game flow. So I definitely don't think you're going to see the same production from Ware. So I'm off Ware this week. As far as receivers, Macklin, he's okay. I just don't think he's going to have a huge game. If you want to use a GPP play, you could use Alex Smith, and you could pair him with Kelce as a GPP option. That's about it from that side. As far as Houston goes, Brock Osweiler looked really, really good in week 1. His receivers dropped some passes. Hopkins dropped 2 touchdown passes. Fuller dropped another. But Fuller had a big game. A lot of people will still be on him this week. Rookies come in, have a big game, and I think Will Fuller's going to be great this season. but I don't think he's going to replicate what he did in week 1. Clearly he has Kansas City's attention now. I do think we'll see a bounce-back game from Hopkins, who was kind of overshadowed in this game, but I'm not going to count on it where I play Hopkins in cash. Hopkins is still too expensive. I believe he's $8,400. For me, I need to be more sure of the production I'm going to get. So Hopkins was let down in week 1. I'm not going to let that happen to me in cash games in week 2. GPP, sure, but that's about it. And I think that's it from that side, right?
I think so.
Next game.
All right, next game we have a 45.5 over/under, which doesn't look bad, but it comes from one team. San Fran at Carolina. San Fran projected to score 16, and Carolina 29.5, which is actually slightly higher than the Giants. So those two teams are the highest scored projected teams this week.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Yep. And once I heard that we were doing our first show tonight, I go to a Panthers game once a year, so broke out my Panthers gear. Because one of our favorite cash game options this week is going to be QB Cam Newton. This game script sets up beautifully for Cam Newton. This situation where he's more than a touchdown favorite and the team totals over 24 are the situations that he's had his biggest games over his career. We see him, he dominates red zone by rushing the ball into the end zone. He throws the ball, he's got Kelvin Benjamin back, so even though when Cam Newton, one of his biggest flaws is throwing the ball high, well, Kelvin Benjamin a couple years ago solved that problem because Kelvin Benjamin is really, really tall. So Cam can throw the ball high, and Kelvin Benjamin goes and gets it. And we saw that in week 1. Kelvin Benjamin we thought was going to be limited on snaps. He was only supposed to see about half the snaps as he did in week 1, but unfortunately they were down and they needed him. So he ended up playing a lot more snaps and he did score a touchdown. So you may think that Kelvin Benjamin's a good option, especially maybe to pair with Cam Newton this week. But the one thing that I don't like about Kelvin Benjamin this week is that they were disappointed that he had to play more snaps than they wanted him to. The game needed it, but he's coming off ACL reconstructive surgery, so they kind of want to ease him in. In this game, they should blow out the 49ers by halftime. And if that's the case, you're going to see Kelvin Benjamin be all done. Maybe he'll get a touchdown early, but you're not going to see one of those games where he goes for 15, 200, and 2 touchdowns. So Kelvin Benjamin looks like a good play this week, but if you dig deeper, I wouldn't use him because they really want to limit him this week. Maybe if you want to use Ted Ginn as a GPP play, you could do that.
I'm never playing Ted Ginn.
Why is that?
I don't like that. He went to a school I don't like. He was drafted like 9th by the Dolphins and was the worst player. I have a big resentment against Ted Ginn. So if we
I get it now. No, I get it because Ohio State. As a Miami fan, we hate Ohio State. And if you're a Dolphins fan, the high pick. Did you guys trade up for that pick too?
No, that was Deion Jordan where we traded up to like number 3 where we could have just stayed and drafted him. So.
Okay, no, I get it. You got a lot of bias going against Ted Ginn. But he did have a big year last year. I think he won a lot of people a lot of money last year if you played him a couple times in DFS. However, week 1, he was almost non-existent. But like what I said with Kelvin Benjamin wanting to be limited this week, I think that Ginn arises as an option. Devin Funchess as well. They're not cash game options, I don't think, but they're definitely in play for GPP. The cash game receiving option for this game is going to Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen saw double-digit targets last week. We saw how good Greg Olsen was as the number 1 option in that passing game last year. He was an absolute stud, week to week, very consistent. So I think you can count on Greg Olsen as a cash game tight end this week. However, he is a little expensive at $7,600. So I'm not going to use him in cash games personally, but I can see you doing it. But you could definitely pair Cam and Greg Olsen in a GPP. You could use Ginn as if you want to do a 3 combo. You could do Funchess if you want to do a 3 combo. If you're going to use Cam as a cash game quarterback, you could use him standalone just by himself. You could pair him up with Jonathan Stewart if you want to raise your floor. However, it's kind of an expensive floor because Cam is $9,000, and then you got to pair that with Jonathan Stewart, who's $6,700. So you're paying a lot of money for that to keep that high floor. So for me, if I'm going to play Cam, I'm going to play him all alone. But I wouldn't say that Stewart's a bad cash game option this week. He's an okay option.
Okay.
On the other side of Carolina's defense, clearly Carolina's defense is the number one player of the week. However, they have 5,300, so they're probably going to be too much to play in cash games. So I recommend them as a GPP option because not many people are going to be able to spend up for that defense. So you're going to get a really, really good defense in a good spot at home, capable of putting up a ton of points. You know, they have good special teams. They can return a touchdown with Ted Ginn, and they're probably going to be very low owned because of their $5,300 price tag. And for San Francisco, just don't.
Yeah.
Except for one guy, Jeremy Curley, on DraftKings, minimum salary, $3K. He's basically a free square this week. I think you have to put him in. He had 12 catches last week. In Chip Kelly's offense, one more thing about this game. Chip Kelly's offense, when he was with the Eagles, they increased the pace of play. They had the highest pace of play of any team in the league while he was with the Eagles. So they run more plays. However, their time of possession was last in the league while he was the coach of the Eagles. So that's both really, really good things for their opposing teams. So for Cam Newton to get an extra 5, 10, 15 plays in this game, that's huge. So whatever he averages on as fantasy points, Fanduel points per play, you add in another 5, 10, 15 plays to that. That's why he's another reason he's such a good option this week. They're going to have the ball a lot as well. But as far as Jeremy Curley goes, he was the guy. So I think we all expected Bruce Ellington in the offseason to be the guy in this offense, the kind of Jordan Matthews go-to guy for Chip Kelly's offense. But he got hurt, he's out for the year, and it looks like Jeremy Curley has taken that role. He got 12 catches last week. If he gets just 12 catches alone on DraftKings, it's 12 points. However, how many receiving yards did he have? He only had like 60 or 70 receiving yards. Let me pull this up real quick. 61 yards. Okay, so he had 11 targets, 7 receptions, 61 receiving yards. We're considering that a good game. It's $4,700 on FanDuel. And I know people are trying to use him as a cash game option, and I would discourage you from doing that. So 7 for 61 in that blowout win where they looked really good on Monday Night Football equated to 9.6 FanDuel points. Now it's 13.1 DraftKings points. At $3,000, you'll take that. Now at FanDuel, he's $4,700. You get 9.6 points, and that seems, and it's not a good matchup. It's the lowest team total of the week. You know, I think his floor or his ceiling is not very high. I think his floor could kill you. There's just too many other good value options. I wouldn't play Curley on FanDuel. That's it for that game.
Okay, excellent. All right, the next one, Miami at New England, 42.5 over/under. Right now, it's New England 6.5 point favorites, 24.5 to 18. What do you got here?
Okay, so this is your team, the Dolphins, against my personal team, the Patriots. I think we know our teams very well. And what do we know? We know that Miami plays the Patriots very, very well. They've won at least one of the 2 games every single year against the Patriots. They're like 12 out of the last 15 years. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Miami needs this game really, really badly. They played really, really well at Seattle last week. In fact, they should have won that game. But they didn't. They lost. So they have to come back, and they're 0-1 in the division. You know, I think all the teams in the AFC East want to take advantage of the 4 games when Brady's out because this is their chance to capitalize. The Patriots have won the AFC East 12 of the last 13 years. Take Brady out for 4 games. All right, the other teams now have a chance. Well, guess what? All 3 other teams lost in week 1 before the Patriots even played their Sunday night game, 0-1. Then the Patriots go out, win in Arizona with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, no Gronkowski. And so now all the other AFC teams are behind them.
Hold on one sec. All right, so we lost some audio here. We're back on. You were saying all the teams were behind the 8 ball, and you can kind of pick up from there if you want.
All right. Yep. So the AFC East, all 3 teams, the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, started the year exactly how they didn't want to start the year, 0-1. And then I'm sure they assumed the Patriots were going to lose in Arizona on Sunday night like everyone else as a 10-point underdog, and Patriots go out and win. So now everyone's a game behind, and that sucks because now it's only Brady's 3 games away from coming back. The Dolphins need this game really, really badly. And they've improved on defense. And the Patriots' biggest weakness, and we saw this last year in the NFC Championship game against Denver, their offensive line. Yes, they got their old offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia back, who's really smart and really good and a really good teacher. However, the talent just hasn't meshed, and it's just not fully there yet. The center for the Patriots, David Andrews, it's like he snaps the ball, sometimes just lays on the ground, or just says, go ahead, or he holds. Then you got Marcus Cannon, who's got his entire arm wrapped in a cast, and he's still holding people. The offensive line is a big weakness for the Patriots. The defensive line is a big strength for the Dolphins. With Ndamukong Suh, they got Mario Williams, they got a healthy Cameron Wake. Yes, they lost Olivia Vernon, but I think the health of those guys and the fact that this team needs to come into New England and win, I think that Miami's going to win this game. That's my call on this game. Miami comes in and takes this game. They need it really badly. They can't fall to 0-2. Patriots go to 2-0 because their season basically is over, and they don't want that. The biggest beneficiary on offense and DFS for this game has many things going for him. His game script, the fact that they're underdogs and they're projected to be behind, needing to catch up for most of the game. That's a good situation for wide receiver Jarvis Landry of the Dolphins. And then we also look at his price across the industry. Jarvis Landry is $6,400 on Draftkings. I think that's a misprice. Jarvis Landry has always been a PPR stud. He's a slot guy, he gets a ton of targets, catches a ton of passes. Tannehill loves him, Miami's offense loves him, and he's their go-to guy. And I think that's just a really affordable price, especially in a full PPR. Go over to Fanduel. Jarvis Landry, $6,500. Also a very affordable price. I went back and looked at the 3 games that he's played in his career against the Patriots. Just so-so. 7 catches, 70-something yards in all 3 games. Don't think he scored a touchdown. This week, I think that changes. I think that they're going to win this game with Jarvis Landry as the go-to guy, and he's going to have a big game. We saw what Larry Fitzgerald did in the slot last week. He scored 2 touchdowns, 8 catches for 84 yards, going up against Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan's really solid veteran. His covering skills aren't very good in the slot, and they can be taken advantage of. And I think we're going to see Jarvis Landry take full advantage of Logan Ryan this week. Patriots are really good at stopping the run game, so I think we could see Arian Foster struggle to get a lot of yards running the ball. Hightower's excellent, and Patriots their front seven's really good. Their safeties McCourty and Chung are also really good, and they played together for a long time. I could see Arian Foster getting 60 yards, 70 yards rushing. If Foster's going to do anything, it'll probably be in the passing game. Like I said, game script says they're going to be behind, so if they're passing to catch up, you probably catch 5, 6, 7, 8 passes. So I'd like Foster as a GPP running back option, but not as a cash game option. But I do love Jarvis Landry. He's one of my favorite wide receiver plays this week, especially for the price. Who else do we have in this game? Switch over to the Patriots. So Gronkowski was looking like he was going to play most of the week. I see there's no way he's going to play this week. I'll tell you that right now. He's not playing. I've read some local beat reporters stuff today. We're at Patriots practice, and he was limping around, and his hamstring is a big issue. And then usually he meets with the reporters after practice on this day, and he skipped that today. So clearly he's not feeling well. Patriots have a leg up in the division after last week. They looked okay. They have Martellus Bennett, who can fill his role slightly, at least adequately. As far as blocking, that's what I'm saying. He can fill the blocking role. We haven't quite seen the pass catching from Bennett yet. So they're going to say, let's rest up Gronk this week. He's not going to play. So don't play Gronk in any of your games. Doesn't mean you don't play Bennett either. Bennett let a lot of people down last week as a cheap alternative, thinking he was going to catch a lot of passes from Garoppolo because they hooked up a lot in the offseason. Julian Edelman's a guy I really like as an option this week. He is cheap as well on FanDuel. He's only $7,100, and we know he's the go-to guy. And whenever he's healthy, he's had foot problems in the past, and he tries to get through it. He's tough as nails. But when he relies on his quickness. If he doesn't have his quickness because of his foot problems, he just can't get the separation he needs. We saw in week 1 in the first quarter, they went early and often to Julian Edelman. He sets the tone for the team. So he just gets open. He's a knack for it. He's just so quick. So his floor is just so high. At 7,100 on Fanduel, you can be assured he's going to catch 7 passes for 70 yards. And then there's a really good chance he goes for 10, 100, 120 with a touchdown or 2. So he's a nice cash game option. Anyone else in this game? Maybe Chris Hogan, but I'm not sure. I would just stick with Julian Edelman. I wouldn't play Jimmy Garoppolo. I wouldn't play Tannehill. Landry and Edelman are my targets in this game.
Okay. All right, so that's all the 1 o'clock games. We're going to move on to the 4 o'clock games now. First one we have here is Tampa Bay at Arizona. Right now it's a 50 over-under with Arizona projected to score 28.5 to Tampa's 21.5. I talked to you earlier this week, and you thought there was a good chance that Arizona just goes off for 40, 45 points or something this week. What do you got?
So it's a little known secret. Arizona Cardinals, when I was doing some research on them in the off season, and I was getting in fights about Larry Fitzgerald, and I was trying to prove why he was going to be just as good or 90% of what he was last year, statistically speaking. And one of the things I found was something that nobody knows is that the Arizona Cardinals in 2015 were the 9th highest scoring offense in the history of NFL football. That's up there with the Rams, the Patriots, great teams, the Saints, great team, the Packers, great team, I think it was 2012. They're right there, and they have all the pieces coming back. At the end of the year, Palmer got hurt. He had the finger injury. We saw him week 1 against the Patriots. He looked really crisp and sharp, and he was going to Fitzgerald, who was making sick, insane catches. At 33 years old, people thought he was going to slip. He's not slipping. He's as good as he's ever been. However, he's got an injury this week, so I wouldn't play Larry Fitzgerald in cash games. I'm looking to the other guy who started to excel at receiver in the second half last year from Notre Dame, Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd is fully healthy. He didn't do much last week because Fitzgerald took all the work and David Johnson took most of the work. But this week with Fitzgerald having an injury and the attention that he's going to need to get, and I believe I read somewhere that he's going to get double teamed this week. Yeah, on my board I have Fitzgerald double coverage. So obviously I read somewhere from Tampa Bay that their intention is to double him in this game as much as possible. So what that says to me is don't play Fitzgerald, play Michael Floyd, because he's going to be able to bust open a 40 or 50-yard TD.
Real quick on that, John, if you watched Tampa last week, they did a bit of that to Julio Jones, and Sanu was the recipient there, so that's kind of in flow with what they did last week, so that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. So exactly. So you take away the number 1 option because you're right. Julio Jones crushed Tampa Bay in years past. So they had to figure out a way to stop him this offseason, right? So they did. So I'm sure they're going to want to carry that over and say, all right, we'll just kind of replicate this in a way to stop Larry Fitzgerald. And of course, they have another problem at Arizona's running back, David Johnson. They got to worry about him too. So the forgotten man becomes Michael Floyd, and he is an elite level talent wide receiver. We saw what he did in the second half last year. He ended up making the Pro Bowl for the first time ever. So in this game, I like Michael Floyd as a cash game wide receiver option, and even better as a GPP wide receiver option. He's only $7,000 on FanDuel. I think he hits your cash game value, and I think he could win you a GPP. If you pair him with Palmer, who nobody's talking about this week, I think this is one of the weeks where Arizona's in a bounce-back mode. The GM ripped them apart last week. I think they let their guard down with no Brady, no Gronkowski. They thought they were going to roll over the Patriots. They need to wake up. I think they got yelled at by the coach, by Arians, by the GM this week, and they know that they're a Super Bowl contender. This team, they're one of the favorites. And if they're gonna reach their goals, this needs to start this week at home against Tampa Bay. I think you're going to see Arizona score 40 to 45 points. I think you're going to see Carson Palmer, who looked sharp last week, have a huge game. Nobody's talking about him. He's definitely a cash game option at quarterback. He's $8,200, which is a really nice price for a guy at his level coming out of that offense. And then you have John Brown as the third receiver option. He's missed most of the preseason with a concussion. He only got 1 ball last week. I know he was a good GPP target last year, but don't play him this week. He's just not into the offense enough right now. Just stick with Michael Floyd. And then the running back, who everyone loves, David Johnson, the guy can do everything. I don't know if you saw that run against the Patriots last week in the third or fourth quarter, Ricky, where he broke like 6 or 7 tackles and just went for like 40 or 50 yards down the sideline. It was one of the greatest runs I've seen in a long, long time. The guy's fast. The guy's got moves. He gets the ball. People thought Chris Johnson and Andre Ellington were going to steal touches. Week 1, they did not steal touches. He got over 20 touches, so this week, game script sets up where he's going to get at least 20 carries. I think he's going to get north of 25 carries. Probably won't catch over 5 passes because they're not going to need to get him the ball in a kind of catch-up passing offense mode. I think they're going to just try to run him as much as they can. He's big and strong. He can wear down the defense. We saw Evan Mathis, the right guard they acquired, had an unbelievable game against the Patriots. So I think that they're going to try to wear down Tampa Bay as the game goes on. David Johnson is an elite cash game running back option this week. He is highly priced at $9,000. If you can fit him in somehow, excellent. Do it. He's worth it. He's got a super high floor. And he's got super high upside. He's got that 3 touchdown upside with 200 plus yards. He's a great play. On the flip side, Jameis Winston. Everyone's loving on Jameis Winston, except for Ricky and myself. As Miami fans, we're not big fans of Jameis Winston, but I think we both recognize the talent that he has. He looked really good against Atlanta in Week 1. He really stepped up his game. 4 touchdown passes. But the problem this week is that they got to go up against Arizona's defense, which is no slouch as well. They got Tyrann Mathieu back. They have Patrick Patterson at cornerback. And they're just pissed off. They have Chandler Jones to rush the passer. I think Jameis is going to do all he can. I think they're going to fall behind. They're going to be in catch-up mode all game. Mike Evans is most likely going to see Patrick Peterson. So I wouldn't play Mike Evans this week. Maybe GPP, but I wouldn't waste your money on him. If you want a GPP receiver from that to pair with Jameis Winston because you think this game's going to be high scoring and a lot of passes with Tampa Bay coming from behind, I could see pairing Winston with Vincent Jackson. Yes, Vincent Jackson.
Safarian Jenkins in this game.
Safarian Jenkins is another option. However, Safarian Jenkins only got, I think, 1 or 2 targets last week. It was a touchdown.
Did he get in the end zone?
He did. He did. All he does is score touchdowns.
That's right.
No. So, let's see. Austin Safarian Jenkins, I think he's 52. Yeah, 5,200. And he got 1 target for 30 yards and a touchdown last week. So he's definitely not a cash game option.
No.
He's a GPP play with Vincent Jackson, who many may have forgotten about, but he still got 8 targets last week. All the attention is going to be on Mike Evans this week. And then stopping Doug Martin in the running game. So I think things will open up for Vincent Jackson. On the turf, you could see him snag a touchdown or 2, maybe close to 100 yards. He is only 5,400 on Fanduel. If you want to throw a dart in a large field GPP, he's a good dart to throw.
I like it.
At running back, that's my favorite player from Tampa Bay this week. It's Charles Sims. Like I said, I think do you agree? Do you think Tampa Bay is going to be passing this entire game, trying to catch up, trying to stay with Arizona?
That's what it looks like, and Jameis looked good last week. So
he did. So Sims had a really down week last week. Doug Martin took a lot of the work. Sims managed only 9 yards on 4 carries. Did catch all 3 of his targets for 32 yards, and he did salvage his week with a touchdown. He's pretty talented. He's a receiving running back. He's a pass-catching running back. Sorry. And this week in this game situation with a high total and going to be playing from behind, he's only 5,600 on FanDuel. He's not a cash game option on FanDuel, but he is a GPP option for sure if you want to save some salary running back and pay up for some receivers or maybe a high-end quarterback or tight end. Let's move on to the next game.
All right, I like it. All right, the next one. I know you were big on the Rams earlier in the week. Let's see if you've moved off them. It's a 38.25 over-under with Seattle at 22.5 and the Rams at 15.75 right now.
I'm going to call it the Hard Knocks curse. It's what Hard Knocks does to a lot of people, I think. You watch it, you develop an affinity for the team because the producers do such a good job of making the team look better than they are. They always do. They've always done it. They did Houston, they did it with Cincinnati back in the day, they did it with Chan Gailey's Dallas Cowboys back in the day. So, yeah, I don't know. You hear Jeff Fisher on the show saying, We're not putting up with any of that 7-9 bullshit this year. We're not going to go 8-8. We're not going 9-7. We're not going 10-6. We're going to be 11-5 or better. And he was like demanding it, and there's this big thing this year. There's a big speech that he gave to the team. So he didn't put up any of the bullshit. Any of the bullshit he called 7-9 bullshit. We're not putting up 7-9 bullshit. Well, I don't know what do you call week 1 that performance?
28-0 against. I mean, that was awful.
That's 0-16 bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not 7-9 bullshit. That's 0-16 bullshit. That was pathetic. In retrospect, Gurley was one of my plays last week, just because he's so much of the offense. And they were favorites. They were favorites, and into the game. They were 1.5 point favorites. So it just seemed like the game script was going to be really good for him for the entire game, getting the majority of the carries, and you got a stud running back, and we could fit him in because we got Ware and Dak. And in hindsight, I should have went with David Johnson, guaranteed touches and a high-octane offense with other weapons. The problem with Todd Gurley is there's no other weapons on the team. So San Francisco said, we're going to put everyone up on the line. Not everyone, but 8 or 9 guys every single down to stop Todd Gurley. And we're going to stop him, and we're going to keep doing it until you prove you can do something else to beat us. The Rams could not do anything else to beat them. They kept throwing it to Tavon Austin, to one-yard sideline routes. You just paid this guy as much as Demaryius Thomas and Alshon Jeffrey, and you're not utilizing this guy like nearly as well as you should. The Rams didn't get inside the red zone last week. Not only did they score, they get in the red zone. The game was pathetic. Don't use the Rams. Don't use their defense. I see people liking their defense. Yes, they have talent, but the return game sucks. And if they can't score, the game script is never going to be in their favor. Just don't use the Rams. And don't use anyone for a while. Gurley's got tough matchups coming up. Stay away. He's too high priced. Maybe GPP. Not this week, though.
All right.
Let's talk about Seattle, I guess. Not much that I love in this game, to be honest with you. I do think the Rams performed better this week. I really do. The line is set up. It's 5.5. I think everyone would bet on Seattle for this game. Was it 6.5 now? We just talked about it's 6.5. I think everyone would put their money on Seattle to blow the Rams out after what they saw last week on Monday night. The Rams couldn't do anything. So I think the Rams keep this game close because it is football, and football is surprising. Russell Wilson's got the ankle injury. For me, he's not a cash game option quarterback because when we play him, we like to know that we can rest assured that he can run the ball a little bit and give us our high cash game for a quarterback that we want. Running back situation's a mess. We got Christian Michael. We got Thomas Rawls just announced as this week's starter. So we're not sure exactly what we're going to get, what the timeshare is going to look like this week. I'm sure Michael's still going to be involved at running back. The one guy who continually goes overlooked, and you could play him this week. He's an option. I think he'll have better weeks ahead, but he's underpriced. Is Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin is an elite receiver that nobody knows about. He's only 7,000 on Fanduel this week. Like I said, he's not one of my cash games options, but you could flip him into a GPP because he has upside. The guy produces almost every single week. I think it was like ever since the 4th or 5th game last year, the guy just took off, and he's a huge producer. Do you agree, Ricky?
I mean, statistically he is, but I'm on the other side of this. I just can't figure it out, and he just keeps doing it. So I'm not gonna argue it. Whenever I hear his name, I'm just like, he's just. But yeah, no, he continually produces, and I finally bought in. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate the guy. He's always been a punk, especially when they played the Patriots in the past. And he's always got a lot to say, and I never really had a lot of talent to back it up. But then I looked closer at him last year while he was doing these amazing things, and he really has put in the work to become the number 1 wide receiver. He had a problem when they brought in Percy Harvin to be the number 1 guy to Seattle. He always had a problem when they were bringing in someone else to be the number 1 guy. So he just said, you know what, I'm going to put in the work, I'm going to do it. And right now, he has the skills, and he's putting up the numbers to be a number 1 guy. And Russell Wilson gets him the ball, and he gets red zone targets. So don't forget about this guy going forward.
All right. Yeah, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that game. I know I've heard you talk about this game.
Hard pass.
Yep. Indianapolis at Denver, 47 over-under. Indy at 20.5. Denver at 26.5. What do you like there?
All right, so we got a lot of games that we have like 4 or 5 games left, and almost all those games are pretty much irrelevant for us. This game, unfortunately, it is relevant. This is something I really like. Trevor Siemian this week. Siemian was announced the Broncos starter in the preseason in a three-way battle for the quarterback. And the reason he got the job is because he protects the football. He doesn't force throws. He's a great game manager. He was the same way at Northwestern. He got injured. His season-ending injury his last year before he got drafted. But in his last full season of playing, they went into Notre Dame, Northwestern, and won behind Trevor Siemian. The guy does a good job at quarterback. He doesn't have great skills, but he does a solid job. And I think we saw all those traits. Well, he's not big on turnovers, but he did turn the ball over with 2 interceptions in Week 1 against Carolina. But on the whole, Trevor Siemian is known for protecting the ball and being smart with it. This week we see him at $6,400 as a quarterback option at home against Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts' entire roster is bad. Their defense has guys like Ricky, myself, a couple other of my buddies. I don't know if there was a blurb this week of they just brought in a slew of guys. First of all, their injury report was like a book, and they brought in a slew of guys this week to try to help out and try to see if any of them could fill a role. So they're hurting bad. They know it. Detroit ripped them apart last week. Stafford lit them up. So this week going into Denver, Siemian had a very solid game against Carolina in their opening Week 1 victory, and the game that many people thought Carolina was going to come in and take, mostly because Trevor Siemian was quarterbacking for the Broncos. Siemian went 18 of 26, nice completion percentage, 178 yards, passing touchdown. The other thing that I really like about Trevor Siemian is he runs. 5 rushing attempts, 20 yards. He's not a big runner like Cam Newton, but in Kubiak's offense, he's a guy inside the red zone. He does the bootlegs, and he'll do the naked bootlegs. So you'll see, I could see him easily faking the ball to C.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson goes out to a pass, kind of takes the bootleg to the right, and there's nobody there, and Trevor Siemian waltzes in for a touchdown. Indianapolis defense is really bad. Denver's going to score points this week. Most people are on C.J. Anderson at running back. He's a great cash game option. And we're on him as well, absolutely. But we also really like Siemian this week at quarterback. So don't ignore him. I know down at that level of salary, people are looking at Josh McCown. I would urge you to move that to Trevor Siemian if you're looking at McCown. He's in a much better spot. As far as receiver goes, Demaryius Thomas, even if he does play, you can't play him. He is really banged up. Practice yesterday, he was complaining all day. He kept needing to get treatment. I don't think he's going to play this week. I do like Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders is one of my favorite under-the-radar plays this week. The reason he's not really a cash game option is because there's other guys around 6,700 that are in better spots, guys like Jarvis Landry. But for 6,700, Emmanuel Sanders has huge upside this week in a GPP. That Colts defense is porous. They're going to let up points. If Demaryius Thomas is out, you can expect newly signed to a new 3-year, $30 million contract before the season started, Emmanuel Sanders to have a huge, huge game this week. But, like I said, it's not a cash game option yet because of Trevor Siemian could limit his upside. Then we have tight end Virgil Green, 4,600, a nice lower end tight end. If you're going to go down that low at tight end, I would go to Jesse James from Pittsburgh. He's my preferred option. My favorite defense this week for DFS, or one of them besides the Carolina, but they're very expensive, is the Broncos. They are underpriced this week against Indy at 4,700. If you've watched any of Denver Broncos games over the last year plus, I think we all know how much they get pressure on the quarterbacks. They force turnovers. They are very disruptive. Indianapolis offensive line is almost as bad as their defense. It's pathetic. It's a sieve. Andrew Luck is he'll do all he can to stay in this game, and he probably will. But trust me, he's going to get sacked a bit. He'll probably fumble once or twice, maybe. And we know that quarterback pressures lead to defensive touchdowns eventually. So I like Denver at 4,700 this week as a defense. I also like pairing defenses with their kickers sometimes, and I think in the altitude of Denver, Brandon McManus in this Denver projected to be highest scoring team this week, 4,700 is a nice kicker option as well. As far as the Colts goes, I would only use Luck in GPP. I like T.Y. Hilton a lot, but I usually only like him at home for many reasons we'll explain in future weeks. Moncrief would be my GPP pair, and then one of Ricky and I's favorite guys, Philip Dorsett, very under the radar. Philip Dorsett could have a huge week this week if Indianapolis plans on staying with Denver. I could see Dorsett having 100 plus and a touchdown this week pretty easily. Jack Doyle, don't play him. Dwayne Allen, you could play him, but only in GPP. That's it. Let's move to the next game.
All right, yeah, the Philip Dorsett thing, I remember I was the only one that was happy they drafted him. Everyone's like, what are they doing? They need off. They need defensive. Yeah, but, I mean, he's a burner.
Well, look at their team now, Rick. Like, look at their team. No, it's in shambles.
I get
it. They needed other things.
They absolutely did, but, how can you pass on a speedster from the U,
I know, I like him, but
I had him as a top 8 pick. I had him as a top 8 pick that year, but what can you do? He fell all the way to 31, I think. All right, so the next game, Jacksonville at San Diego, 47.5. San Diego's a 3-point favorite, 25.25 to Jacksonville, 22.25.
All right, this game features another one of our cash game potential options at running back, Danny Woodhead. We saw Keenan Allen go out with the injury last week with the ACL. He's out for the year. Last year, Keenan Allen missed a bunch of games with a season-ending injury, and Danny Woodhead's already more involved in the offense than many think to begin with. When Keenan Allen is out, he becomes even that much more involved. In a game like this, where it projects to be at least moderate to high scoring, you can expect Danny Woodhead to get a great amount of action. I think last week, Danny Woodhead had 16 carries. Melvin Gordon had 2 touchdowns, but Danny Woodhead was getting the work in the second half as they were trying to close out that 21-3 lead against Kansas City. We've seen Danny Woodhead gets tons of red zone work, and he gets tons of red zone love from Phillip Rivers over the last 2 years at least. So you take out Keenan Allen, you give me Danny Woodhead's price. We know he's going to have production, and he becomes a really nice play for 6,400 on Fanduel this week. Go to the full PPR site, Draftkings, and you see that Danny Woodhead, I think he's 4,500 in a full, no, 5,200, I'm sorry, 5,200. Still, really nice price for a full PPR guy like Danny Woodhead. On Draftkings, you really, really got to love the pass-catching running backs like Danny Woodhead, Theo Riddick types. All right, the other guy, Melvin Gordon. Yes, he looked good. Yes, he had 2 touchdowns. Yes, he only had about 50% of the work in a game where they were up 21-3 most of the game. So you would expect him to see about 75-80% of the work. That's got to be concerning. Don't play Melvin Gordon in cash games, maybe GPPs. Phillip Rivers, I wouldn't play him in cash games. We're trying to figure out right now who's going to be the receiving replacement for Keenan Allen. Is it going to be Tyrell Williams? Is it going to be Dontrell Inman, who did have 2 touchdowns last year at Jacksonville in their early season game, by the way? Or is it going to be Travis Benjamin? It's going to be one of those 3 guys, most likely. I think they want Tyrell Williams to be the guy. He's 5,400 on FanDuel. He makes for a nice GPP option this week. People are saying he's going to be the guy. I think he's more of a deep threat than he is a Keenan Allen target monster type threat. I think that we're probably going to eventually see Dontrell Inman take over the Keenan Allen role, but we got to see how that plays out. So for this week, you got to avoid all 3 in cash games. You can fire up any of them for GPPs. You could even fire up Benjamin in GPPs. Antonio Gates is being played by a lot of people in cash games this week as their tight end. He's 5,900 on FanDuel. There's a lot of tight ends to like this week, and he's just not my favorite this week. Jacksonville looked really good against Green Bay last week. Blake Bortles, a lot of weeks he's a cash game option. This week he's not. This week he's more of a GPP option, and he's got a perfect pairing for a GPP option this week, and that's Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson appeared to let down last week in a major way. However, you look closer, and he got 15 targets, He was a target monster last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then, Ricky, did you check out that air yard thing?
I did. I
the
saw
graph
that.
I showed you.
That's awesome.
So it's a good way of predicting future receiver success. So if guys have a down week or down a couple weeks, you look at their air yard totals. So the yardage that the ball's been passed in the air, like it sounds. Add that up, and it's been very predictive to find out who's gonna be good going forward. So who is number one on the list for week 1? Allen Robinson, by far and away. So yes, Allen Robinson goes up against Verrett this week, which is scaring, I think, the majority of DFS players away from him. Don't be scared away from Allen Robinson this week. He's gonna get the targets. You could use him in a cash game if you wanted to. Just 8,200 is a little too high, but I still think he's a strong play this week because Allen Robinson moves all over the field. He plays a third of the time in the slot. And then, lastly, I did just hear a couple hours ago that Verrett's got an injury. I'm not sure if he's playing or not this week. But Allen Robinson, no matter what, gets targets. So look at Macklin still scored a touchdown and had 60-plus yards against Verrett last week. So, Macklin's still getting moderate production. Think about what Allen Robinson can do in this game. He's just going to go, you're not going to have many chances where you're going to get a guy like Allen Robinson, 8,200, a guy that can catch 15 passes, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's super talented. He's one of the top 5 or 10 receiver talents in the league. If you don't want to play Allen Robinson, you can go to the University of Miami guy that was great last year for GPPs, and that's Allen Hurns. And he looks like he's just picked up where he left off last year. He gets about a third of the targets that Allen Robinson gets a game, but he's very productive with those targets, and he almost always found the end zone last year. So Allen Hurns, not a cash game receiver, definitely a GPP guy. Another guy I like this year is Julius Thomas. Again, I like a lot of tight ends this week, but he's 6,400. You could play him in cash games, but he doesn't fall into one of my top 10 guys this week. That's it for Jacksonville in that game.
All right, yeah, I was about to say if you didn't mention Allen Hurns, I was gonna throw out there that first you disrespected Philip Dorsett, and then you passed on Travis Benjamin.
I didn't disrespect him. That was a disrespect to the Indianapolis
And then you passed
Colts.
on Travis Benjamin as saying he's clearly not the best option there, and you were gonna pass on Hurns, but you're fine. All right, that's fine.
I did. And I didn't talk about Frank Gore either. I hope that didn't bother you.
Come on, Andre Johnson's still in the league. Give me a break here. Okay. The last 4 o'clock game is Atlanta at Oakland. This is a 49 over/under. Atlanta's 22.25 and Oakland 26.75. What do you got?
Just so you guys know, guys, I'm pretty long-winded when I get going. We're going to clean this up and shorten it up. We plan on it being under 45 minutes going forward. So I apologize for being long-winded on this first episode. Just getting a feel for things. So we'll clean it up, shorten it up, and make it more information efficient going forward. This game, Atlanta, Oakland. I don't have a lot of guys in this game. Julio Jones disappointed last week. He could break out this week, but he re-injured his ankle. I don't think you can play him in cash games because there's other guys at that salary who are just way better options. Odell Beckham being one, Antonio Brown being one, AJ Green being one. So there's 3 guys right there at that price range. But that said, Julio Jones can go nuts any week. So Julio Jones is always in GPP range for me. You can pair Ryan and Julio Jones. Look what Breeze and his Saints receivers did against the Raiders last week. It was crazy. And Julio Jones could easily do that. But he's just not a cash game option this week. As far as the Atlanta running back situation, big avoid. Last year was all Devontae Freeman. This year they're getting Tevin Coleman more involved. Last week it was 50-50 split, and Devontae Freeman didn't get many passing targets, and he didn't average many yards per carry. It looks to me like Tevin Coleman's starting to take over this backfield. And if he does more special things like he did in week 1, breaking off long runs, he's going to grab that job sooner rather than later. Matt Ryan, he's always just an okay quarterback. He's not a cash game option for me. Like I said, to compare him with Julio as a GPP. Who else do we have in this game? Sanu. I went back because people were all over Sanu after this game, thinking that he was good. Ricky, we could play defense for the Indianapolis Colts. Ricky, I went and saw that pass Sanu caught for a long touchdown. We could have done that too.
Yeah.
He was that wide open. So I would not give Sanu the credit that he's getting, personally. So Oakland side, this is the interesting side. So David Carr had a big week last week. Everyone likes the Raiders as a hot, sexy pick this year. I do think they're going to be good, and they probably will reach the playoffs if they can keep this up. That David Carr is a good weekly option, usually as a cash game quarterback. He falls just outside of that for me this week. I would reserve him again for GPPs. Amari Cooper. This guy's talent is awesome. I love this guy at Alabama. I've been obsessed with this guy for the last couple of years. But the one downside of Amari Cooper has always been that he doesn't get red zone targets. He's never gotten red zone targets when he was at Alabama. He only got 7 red zone targets in the entire season playing with Oakland last year. But looking at the week 1 game, guess who got red zone targets? Amari Cooper. It was nice to see inside the 10-yard line. Going right to Amari Cooper. He didn't catch it, but just seeing it made me feel a hell of a lot better going forward. Amari Cooper is a good play in this game. You could use him in cash games. I prefer him in GPPs. If you want a receiver from this game to round out your cash lineup, I would steer you towards Michael Crabtree, the underrated Michael Crabtree. He is only 6,200 on Fanduel. He was very consistent last year. This passing offense, it seems to be Carr, Cooper, and Crabtree. Those are the guys that he trusts, and he's built a strong foundation with them. Most of his passing yards go to these guys, and that's nice to see because you don't have to worry about other guys getting the ball. I wouldn't play Latavius Murray. That situation's in flux right now. Jalen Richard, a guy, rookie running back undrafted from Southern Mississippi, broke off a 75-yard touchdown run last week, and coaching staff's kind of sick of Latavius Murray, so I could see Jalen Richard rising up the depth chart real quick, especially if he continues to impress. And Ricky, I won't forget about Clive Walford. 4,700. I think he's going to have a nice year. I think he has GPP potential. He's not a cash option this week. But I do think he's going to have a nice year. I do. I think we'll look back at the end of the year, and we'll see he had maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns and was pretty productive over the course of the year for this good offense. On the flip, we're done with that game.
Yeah, and if they don't like Murray, I know Clinton Portis is available, so maybe his agent can give him a call. All right. Clinton Portis. All right, enough of that. The Sunday night game, Green Bay at Minnesota. Green Bay is a 2.5-point road favorite, 43 over under. What do you like here?
Okay, not much, to be honest with you. They do have great players. They have Adrian Peterson, who's one of the best fantasy players, Jordy Nelson, Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb, Eddie Lacy, Stephon Diggs is emerging. They have great fantasy players in this game, but in this game I do not like really anyone. I would urge you just kind of avoid this game in cash. If you want to use AP in a GPP, I wouldn't fault you. He's Adrian Peterson. He seems to always start week 1 slowly because he doesn't play in the preseason, so he has rough week 1s before he gets into his season. He has, over his career, performed really, really well against that Green Bay defense. So you could see him really ramp it up this week and outperform that price tag, but he's just not safe enough to trust in cash, for certainly. At quarterback, we are pretty sure it's going to be Bradford this week from reading coach speak. If you saw Bradford play last year, he was terrible. Don't play him. And I think that leaves a question mark over what's going to happen with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is an up-and-coming wide receiver talent, and he's an elite talent. Sam Bradford could hinder that. I feel like Jordan Matthews is going to have a much better year than last year with Carson Wentz.
Hold on.
And the big guys are all GPP options. There's no cash options in this game.
Okay. Good. All right, so we're down to the last one. Also an ugly over-under, 42.5. I don't know. I mean, call me.
Everybody wants the Monday Night Hammer, though.
I know. This is going to be a tough one to find a hammer in, but it's Philly at 19.5 and Chicago at 23. I don't know. I watched a little bit of this. Chicago looked awful. I was kind of surprised to see they were 3.5-point favorites. What do you got here?
A stat I saw was Chicago is 9-1 at Soldier Field in the last 10 against rookie quarterbacks. Yeah, their defense is bad, but I think that Philly just looked really good because they got to play at home against Cleveland. I think Chicago's going to win this game, this home opener. I do. I think a guy I really like, even though I don't like the team, is Jeremy Langford. The reason I do like him is because he gets like 95% of the team's touches out of that backfield. Yes, sometimes he only averages 2.5, 3, 4 yards a carry. While that sucks, he picks that up on the receiving end because he catches 2, 3, 4, 5 passes a game. He gets red zone touches. And so this week he's down there, one of the lower priced running backs this week at 6,500. Oh, I forgot to mention TJ Yeldon is a cash game running back this week too, because Chris Ivory's going to be out. So he's in that, Langford's in that range with TJ Yeldon, Danny Woodhead. There's a couple guys around that 63, 64, 6,500 guy. And I had a tough time sorting them out. When it came down to it, I went with the guy who I knew was going to get 95% of the work. I went with the guy, not because I know Yeldon averages 1.9 yards a carry. I mean, he's done that before. So if the guy can't get more than 2 yards a carry, he can't be my cash game running back. So Langford can be my cash game running back. He can be your cash game running back. He's going to get action. They're going to score points. Philly's D isn't dominant. So Langford's going to get work. You can rely on that. And it's not too much to spend on a running back. As far as quarterback goes, I would use Cutler, maybe GPP. Alshon Jeffrey is in an okay spot this week for a bounce back. Well, he did it for 104 last week. They were all in the first half. Then he did nothing in the second half, kind of like the rest of the Bears team. I could see him having a big week against Philly this week. We have seen those stud receivers in the past, like Des Bryant, get past that weak Philadelphia secondary and have huge games, like 200 yards, 3 touchdown games. So Alshon has that big GPP upside. But in that price range, there's just a couple better cash options, I think. But he's still probably a top 10 cash option for me. Kevin White is still, he's not on any radar for me yet. And then we go to the other side of that game, Philadelphia. Carson Wentz looked really good last week. Jordan Matthews got a ton of targets, which we love. We love when a guy gets targets, because targets mean that they should repeat week after week after week, and we can rely on that. And he looked really good. So, and then we get a good price on Jordan Matthews this week as well, at 6,900 for a guy that gets a lot of targets. For me, I was looking at him, I was looking at Jarvis Landry, and you look at the pros and the cons, and things just lined up a little bit better for Jarvis Landry at 6,500 for me than they did Jordan Matthews in this game at 6,900. I don't know how much I can trust Wentz yet, so we'll see. I like Matthews going forward. I think his price is going to rise. GPP option. At running back, I thought I really would like Ryan Matthews this week at another 6,300, 100 salary Fanduel running back. Got a lot of running back touches last week, 22, got 6 carries inside the 5-yard line, but only scored 1 touchdown. And then in the second half, when they were up big and like trying to cement the game against Cleveland, he stopped getting carries. And so for me, there's something. I've always tried to like Ryan Matthews. There's something just not right. So at 6,300, like I said, there's some better options in that range. Maybe you can use him in a GPP if you want. Darren Sproles is a guy I like on Draftkings this week. I like him to catch some passes this week for GPPs. And then my sneaky defense of the week is Philadelphia. Not a lot of people are talking about them. They're 4,800. Chicago's offensive line is really bad. Jay Cutler makes really bad decisions. Philly's defense is a little underrated. They get pressure. Under the radar D is Philly D this week.
Yeah, after watching Chicago play last week, I thought that was one of the first Ds I looked at this week was Philadelphia. I like that call a lot. So
maybe not as under the radar as I hoped. So. Well, Denver's 4,700. I think more people are going to flock to Denver.
Yep.
So,
which is going to be safer. All right, good deal. All right, John.
We've gone on for too long.
No, you did good, man. We appreciate it. All right, you can get John on Green Mountain Grinder on Twitter and come by Draft Manager and say hello. All right, we'll talk soon, John. Thanks, man. Bye.
All right, see you later.